All right. So yeah, thanks for joining everybody. What's up, guys? It's been a few months.
It
Yeah,
has.
it has
It has,
indeed.
yeah.
I just got a message from Jennifer. She can see us. So we're good to
Great.
go here. Awesome.
Everybody can watch us be
Good.
confused for the
Yeah.
first hour long. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, bear with us, everybody. We are trying a new platform, obviously. We're streaming this on YouTube now, and our
Yeah,
first time here.
it's a brand new platform. It just came out, I think, this year. And
YouTube's
Yeah,
all the new
YouTube's
yeah,
rage, I hear.
it's
Yeah.
I hear all the kids are using it, so
Uh-huh.
we decided to switch over to it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, is it YouTube or the YouTubes?
The YouTubes.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Got it.
yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
It's really like a tubular version of you, I think, right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, it's radical. You got to say the whole radical. You can't just say rad.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Gotta-
Sorry, my bad. My
Oh,
bad.
look, Brandon's here.
Hey,
No, he's
Brandon.
not.
All right, cool. Well, what's been going on, guys? Last couple months.
It's been busy for us anyway. I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yeah,
sure everybody's the same, but
just interneting, man. Just
Yeah, Pink,
jobbing. Yeah.
blue team, you guys are busy. How many cases do you have right now?
we've got 14 active right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's breach giving starting early, I'm afraid. So
It was a summer of breach, right? You know.
it kind of was, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting. I mean, had some interesting new techniques I mean, like not big changes, but some little tweaks here and there. Kind of seeing the resurgence of ransomware a little bit
Hmm.
because we hadn't been seeing as much of that for a while. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good to be busy, but we don't want people to be getting breached either. So
Sure.
it's a
Yeah,
mixed
so you
bag.
guys still having a heavy dose of business email compromise cases too, I assume.
We they're picking back up a little now. There was a period a couple months ago where we were like 80/20, where it was 80% internal compromise, 20% business email compromise. And normally that's the opposite, right? So normally
Hmm.
it's 20% internal and 80 the other way. So that was a little bit of a shift. There's a few new ransomware groups out there. They're kind of making some noise, and I know we're probably going to talk about some new updated ransomware and whatnot too. But yeah, still heavy dose of email compromise. Slightly shifting tactics. I mean, still seeing plenty of the token theft attacks, but been seeing the attackers use like a wider array of IP addresses. So, normally we would see two or three IPs from the attacker. Sometimes now we're seeing 30. So kind of spreading things out a little bit, trying to be a little more evasive. We get you though. We still catch you.
Good deal, good deal. So what's up with you, Eric? You guys had DEF CON a month ago. How did that go?
DEF CON was good, man. We we brought like 23 people out this year, which was actually less than last year. And it was kind of nice in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, 29 people last year, and we were worried it was going to be, not worried, but we thought it would be like 30 something this year that we would end up taking from our team. And but there was a decent amount of people who couldn't make it or just didn't want to come this year.
Hmm.
And I think having that lighter amount was like maybe the sweet spot for being able to like gather people into an area, houses or rooms and stuff. When you're trying to figure out something like that for that many people can be tough. But we had a really good year. And we had a committee this year to kind of put things and organize things together this year, which took a lot of pressure off myself and others, and
Hmm.
made it so that I could have a lot more fun too. So I'm super appreciative of that. But the con itself was, I'd say it was good, man. There was some cool stuff going on in general, and obviously a lot of our people on our team love to do like the CTFs, and stuff like that, competitions, and had a few of those that they got into, and like I think we took top 10 and like four or five of them or something like that. So that was cool. And yeah, man, I think it was a pretty good year in general for DEF CON, in my opinion. I mean, as they continue to grow and move around location to location, they're at the Las Vegas Convention Center now, like last year and this year, and it's a different feel, it's a different vibe to it. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of light, a lot of sunlight. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of, it's just like it's kind of a different thing. You know what I mean? It looks nothing like my room does right now. But yeah, I think. you kind of take that part away, and it's a good space. It's able to fit a lot of people. This year was nice in the sense that like a couple years back when they did it at Caesar's Forum, I felt like when I'd walk through the hallways, my shoulders were always touching someone else's shoulders,
Yeah, agreed.
like
I remember that.
it was packed, and so at least with this, um, it's not like that. I mean, it's still crowded, but it's a lot better. Had some good areas for different things, and they're growing as far as like villages and communities go and things like that. It's cool to see some representation for different groups and stuff, kind of kicking up and doing really well there, and being able to get people together. And from my understanding, some really good talks. I don't generally go to the talks at DEF CON. I'm the type of person who's like, oh, I'll wait for him to come onto YouTube or something
Sure.
if I care about him. So I can't really speak to him, but I do know there's some good subjects, and we had some people go to some that they really enjoyed. So yeah, it was a good outing.
Yeah, man, happy to hear that. And yeah, talking about the expansion too. So we did, last minute kind of find out from our buddies over at Red Seer. They had been approved for an education village. And so we were able to help them out with the education village and co-sponsor that. I hope next year we're able to be a little more involved in that. I think we found out what, 2 weeks before the event,
Yeah.
Eric?
Well, and technically, for anyone watching, it wasn't a village; it was a community. Communities are kind of like a
Community, yeah.
smaller version of a village. Like they're much smaller. I know that sometimes places will start as like last year, for instance, there was a game hacking community. This year there was a game hacking village, right? So
Sure.
maybe one of those things to grow into type of thing. But yeah, I actually was kind of bummed because I have a history for anyone who knows me of being involved in game hacking, and don't shame me, okay? I did it for educational purposes, not to make you mad.
That's right.
But nonetheless, I have many years of experience with game hacking and things like that. It's always been a special place in my heart. The short story for anyone listening in is that when I turned about 18, 19-ish, I was really afraid of like getting in trouble for doing illegal things. And so I decided to take a route that would not be illegal, such as but still let me hack and learn reverse engineering and learn how to bypass things and do that kind of side passion. And so games is where I found that, right? So last year I saw the game hacking community. I went by it. I thought it was really cool, but I didn't like bring a gaming capable computer to do any of their stuff with. So I was like, this year I brought one. I was like going to be involved. I go to the communities and they weren't there. I was so bummed. I forgot to look to see if they had become a village. They had. I just never ran into it. So I completely missed it this year. I was a little bummed, but yeah. Red Seer did have a community, or really heavily helped create a community there for education, and it was a small little booth area. Every time I went by there, man, it was packed. I mean, I think I went through the first morning and it wasn't quite packed yet. And I talked to some people there, and then I left and I came back to like see them later, and it was like I could barely get in there. So it was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Nice. I love hearing that. They're doing great things. I know they're big supporters of education and through most of their conferences that we typically support them on. They're giving away lots of training opportunities, certification opportunities for young individuals trying to get into the career. So always support those dudes and glad to see that community got approved, and hopefully we can help them a little more next year, be a little more involved and see that community grow and try to just provide those resources to people who want to break into our industry today. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks, Eric, at Wild West Hacking Fest in Deadwood. So that's the
Yeah.
next one on the list. I don't have a ticket right now, and they sold out. So if anybody's listening that has some ties, could help me get a ticket, that'd be awesome. Hit me up. I would appreciate that.
Yeah. They sell out pretty well. I shouldn't say pretty fast. They're obviously up there for a while, but they sell out months before,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Which I did warn a lot of people. I don't know if I warned you, but my
yeah.
apologies.
I
I did
booked the
warn you.
flight. I gave you some money on the Airbnb. I did all the things
He's
except
got a
buy a
flight and a
ticket.
place to stay. He just doesn't have a ticket to get to Wild West Hacking Fest. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out anybody who's listening. Hook me up with a ticket. That'd be
John
awesome.
Strand, if you see this, hit up Oscar, please. Help him out.
All right. Well, let's dig in, guys. Glad to be back with you guys here today. Thanks to our viewers who are finding our stream now. I'm happy to see you guys joining. We're going to switch things up a little bit with the relaunch here. We do want you guys to submit questions. We're going to try to have a little bit of time at the end of every session moving forward. So we'll do active Q&A. So if you have questions you'd like to see us answer or attempt to answer, throw those in the chat and we'll get to them eventually. And then we're going to bring back some segments again. The first one is the catch of the month. And so kind of going to talk about every month here. The catch of the month is essentially who got pwned, who got caught. And there were a couple of incidents. Well, every month there's a lot of incidents, but there were two in, specific here that I decided to bring up and chat about. These were both announced last week. One was Bridgestone North America, auto supplier, manufacturer of tires. Details are still coming out on this attack, but we know the attack disrupted multiple manufacturing facilities in North America. They said a full investigation is still underway. They say they stopped the attack early. Not sure what that means. This incident took place on Monday, September the 1st, and they actually put out a comment later that day, which I thought was kind of suspicious. The comment was no information has been compromised either for employees or customers. I don't have any further details at this time, but I've been reassured on that front. So they don't know what happened. They don't know what the incident was. They're probably not even sure how they got in, but they know there was no data stolen. Also, about the same time as this incident, there was another incident with Jaguar and Land Rover. Production facilities again in Midlands, Merseyside in the UK have been put on hold. Sounds like a lot of their suppliers and production facilities around the world are also on pause. They're saying it may be weeks until they come back online. At this point, we know they were fully encrypted and ransomed by Scattered Spider. We know the MO on Scattered Spider, but also a representative from Jaguar and Land Rover put out a comment very quickly after this incident was announced and essentially said the same thing. We've been impacted by a cyber incident. We took immediate action to mitigate the impact. We're now working to restart, blah, blah, blah. But at this stage, there is no evidence any customer data has been stolen, but our retail and production activities have been severely disrupted. So just kind of want your thoughts on this. We know Scattered Spider, right? Their MO, they exfil data. They do double extortion. They encrypt your data, they steal your data and prove they've got your data. I thought it was very peculiar that within 24 hours, both of these companies put out a statement saying, hey, nothing was stolen here. We're sure of that. We're not sure about anything else, but we're sure your data wasn't stolen. I do have one update, though, regarding Jaguar and Land Rover. They did put out another statement this morning. So I wanted to check this and see if anything has changed. And now they actually have confirmed that data was exfiltrated, although they don't know what the data that was exfiltrated was yet, but they'll be letting people know. So, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, we've talked about this a few times on Hackle Box, and I think the general like statement of like people love to lean on the like we have no evidence that this has happened, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like, well, yeah, it's really easy to not find evidence of it, and it's also really easy to throw that evidence kind of brushed to the side a little bit to an extent. I mean, I don't expect anyone's ever lying when they say it. I think they believe it to the best of their legal belief, right? Like, but like I think there's always that side of like, hey, this might have happened, or we think it did happen, but we can't say that, or we shouldn't say that unless we have to say it, right? Um, I'm against that in general, but I also understand where people are coming from on it. It's a tough one, man. I think about it like from our perspective, like if it were to happen to us, you know, a team of lawyers would be like, you do not say anything that is not for sure. You know what I mean? Like, if we were being coached by some lawyers, man, they'd be telling us to do the exact same thing, and that's a tough one for sure because it's disingenuous, you know, but at the same time, it's you know, it's safer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's a lot of influence here in these statements. And my mind goes exactly where you are. We know we work with a lot of lawyers and we know the MO there as well. Then also even the people working the incident internally, right? A lot of times, and I don't know in these organizations that, but they are large entities. They probably have their own incident response team internally. And a lot of these guys are trying to save bacon too and say, no, 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 we don't think there was any data stolen. And so they're relaying that message. The lawyers are saying, well, they don't think there was any, so let's put out a statement saying there was no data impacted by this.
Yeah.
There can be a lot of confusion between the telephone game played with that kind of thing too. Um, yeah, definitely. If there's no like hard evidence that there was exfiltration, then that's a statement that a lot of times gets made. I'm a
Mhm.
little more suspicious of the Bridgestone one. Well, not suspicious, but just like, ooh, I'm sure a PR person or a lawyer is like, hey, you probably shouldn't have said it that firmly
Yeah.
Yeah.
up front. But then kind of like the Jaguar one you mentioned, most likely they found exfiltration tools. I mean, just thinking about how these investigations play out a lot, they probably found R clone or, some Mega Drive connections, that kind of thing, but they don't have the data to back up what was actually sent out the door, right? They may see
Mhm.
150 gigs went out, but they don't know what that is, that kind of thing. And so that's probably where they're at. I mean, I kind of applaud them for at least saying that, like, hey, we think something was taken, but we're just not sure
Mhm.
what yet. And
Do you,
that'll be a long process of like e-discovery and things like that to figure out
do you
what
think a lot
needs to
of
be reported
times
on.
when that kind of when tools, exfiltration tools or exfiltration related indicators, right, are seen that is off, because that's where I was saying like it's easy to have evidence kind of swept away, is one of those things where like you could see
Mhm.
that stuff, but if you don't see that they were technically used on a specific set of data, I mean, a lot of, I feel like I've never been in the situation and had a lawyer coach me to say one thing or another, but I feel like that would still be an easy way to say, hey man, don't admit guilt there. We don't see any specific, like they could have just been preloading that, or that could have been part of the drop or something like that, right? Like something that was dropped there and maybe it was never got a chance to be used. I mean, you don't want to claim that data maybe was exfiltrated just because you saw the tools, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's fair. And that's a good point too, right? I mean, and yeah, depending on the legal team, right, they may coach you in that of like, hey, just because you see the tools doesn't mean that things were actually taken. And I think even for us investigating, right, just because we see the tools doesn't mean that anything was taken. We want to see something else to back that up, right? Do I see the tool plus an influx of like, or an increase in outflow data during that time through your firewall monitoring or something like that? And then I'm reasonably, I don't want to say sure, but confident, reasonably confident that there probably was exfiltration. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've certainly seen attacks where tools were dropped and we had no indication that they were actually used.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes we find that evidence later too, right? We find another artifact that says, oh, they were used. And so we have to kind of go back on those statements. And the early days of an incident are really tough for a lot of folks. And I mean, us included, right? Because there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, unknown unknowns, or, however you want to phrase that, things that you're not even aware of that you need to be looking at yet. And so I can see that. It's why a lot of times you don't hear a next day statement out of someone, right? Because they
yeah.
don't have enough information to talk yet.
Yeah,
One of the
that was the
things,
main thing that stuck out to me in both of these is that the statement came so quick after the initial incident. And knowing, like what you said, Pink, like when you look at these two businesses here, objective number one is going to be to become operational again, right? To understand that path of recovery because they're losing millions of dollars every day that they're not operational. And so, regardless of your team that's working on that, that's going to be one of the primary objectives there. And just like you said, we know that that actual confirmation of exfiltration sometimes, most of the time, doesn't come until a little further down the line in that process of responding to the incident.
Yeah.
real fast, I have another thing I want to talk about on this that I did not tell you guys about. So, but I don't want to ignore chat either. So, I mean, like we haven't paid too much attention. I do want to say hi to Bill and hi to Brian. Hey, Brian, thanks for dropping in, man, and and saying hi to the peeps. And then yeah, I hope the YouTube thing takes off for sure.
I don't know who
But
the angry intern is, but I like the name. And yeah,
yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Good name. But one of the aspects of this, I mean, like, at least on the Jaguar one, their statement said something. Let me see. It said, "We took immediate action to mitigate its impact by proactively shutting down our systems." Right, and that's a thing that I think I've been seeing more and more and more is the proactive shutting down of things that are not necessarily effective. Right,
Mhm.
and so they become affected. And I guess I just want to, if you guys don't mind, talk on that for a second. I mean, like one of the things I think that does is it interestingly changes people's idea of what hackers are capable of and doing, but also the question of like, is that the right thing to do? Is proactively shutting down other segments, other things, and just like shutting down all the operations and stuff the right way to go about things? Is that the right move to be making? I'll point out like what would the Colonial Pipeline in 2021, right? A lot of people are like hackers were able to shut down the pipeline. Like no, Colonial Pipeline was shut down by them in response to the fact that
Mhm.
hackers were in the environment. Like the hackers did not make the shutdown happen. That was a response. That was an overabundance of caution situation where they're like, hey, people are in here. We don't know where they're at. We're shutting this down, right? Last year in Washington State, where I live, there was some breaches and stuff, and they just, again, their statement was out of overabundance of caution, we've shut down all the court systems, all the everything went into hold. Like they couldn't do a bunch of like stuff related to the court system, like see, hear cases. I know that like gun background checks and stuff like that were all halted. Like people were up in arms about that. I mean, there was a ton of stuff, and it's because they are shutting it down in response to the breach, right? What do you guys think about that, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think absolutely. The goal here is to limit the impact and the damage, right? Limit the impact and severity of this. And when you're in the initial stages of a response, you're not really sure where they have their hooks, how far they've reached. And so when we talk about shutting down, let me be sure I differentiate too. You shouldn't be physically turning off anything,
Thank you.
right? But you should be severing those connections and severing the actions and, connectivity to and from those applications and systems until we can actually identify where the hooks are, prevent the spread. So yeah, I think it's smart as a proactive response to, again, not power down the systems, but sever the connectivity to and from those systems while you continue to investigate. So we can confirm isolation and we can prevent the continued expansion of that incident. And I think overall it will limit the impact. And I think that is a good call out too here, like especially looking at the Bridgestone environment. And we do know it was only a few facilities that were impacted. They have a large number of facilities, but I think there were 3 or 4 facilities that were impacted. And so that is probably a proactive measure. There was some sort of connectivity. Maybe they were making the same product between those. They had ties into the same system. So they said, hey, let's halt all operations while we continue to investigate this and really get a plan for recovery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, and maybe people feel more confident saying things were not exfiltrated when they're like, we didn't see it in any area where there was client data, and et
Hmm.
cetera, and we shut
Yeah.
down those connections, and so maybe they're making claims like that. But the other side of that question too, for me, is like, do you think it is giving more of that the hacker boogeyman, kind of effect out there to the public? Because like I was looking at the last year thing in Washington State, right, and everybody's reporting it on a statewide cyber attack, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was, but people were basing their things off of the fact that like at a statewide many things were shut down or access was shut down and a lot of operations were halted due to this, but that could have been one office that was actually breached, right? Like
Oh
versus the
yeah.
entire state. Obviously too, the Colonial Pipeline, it's like, oh my god, hackers are able to shut down oil pipelines and stuff. It's like, well, it's not what they did, you know what I mean? So like we continue to do this and we're seeing bigger and bigger effects from it. And I think people think that hackers are quite a bit more capable than they are.
I think
Yeah. I mean, I
it
think
definitely does amplify the boogeyman effect. Yeah, if
Yeah.
we can coin that phrase and keep it now, the
the
boogeyman
boogeyman
effect of
effect.
hackers. But I think
Yeah.
there are instances too where, like from what I know with the JLR, the Jaguar Land Rover, like they're full down, they're full encrypted. And so like there are some of these incidents that are that severely damaging where if they get,
Yeah.
enough hooks in an environment, they can encrypt the entire thing. Like they can shut it down. But I think you're right. That's not every incident. And I think the public's mind typically goes to the attackers did this rather than really understanding was this a necessary precaution that the company was being responsible and implementing these precautions to try to prevent more significant damage.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
even in the JLR thing, they said we shut things down proactively. I
Yeah,
mean, so some of their stuff at least probably wasn't affected,
they
but
did.
maybe
Yeah,
they
you're right.
personally affected it. So anyway, I don't want to keep us on the topic too long, but I thought that was something that people don't normally talk about on those subjects and would be interesting. I've had a lot of conversations over the years where people are like, hackers are crazy, man. You're one of those. You can do this kind of stuff. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not that kind. But second, like they didn't even do that stuff. Like it's important to
Yeah.
note the difference. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Any closing
Maybe.
thoughts, Pink? I think we
Yeah.
talked over you a couple
More.
times, man.
Oh, you're good. You guys are good. You guys are saying the same things I'm thinking. But I was just gonna say, yeah, if we've got any PR people out there, maybe think about that with some of those statements. I mean, is there a way that at this point you can go, yeah, at this point we have identified 10 systems that were impacted of our, many thousands we have, but we shut the rest of them down proactively. Like that would be
Hmm.
really cool to see. Because I think a lot of us can read through that a little bit of like, oh, it's proactive, cool. They probably didn't get that much, probably okay. But I don't think most people are thinking about it on that level. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a really powerful tool in gaining credibility, trust, and offering that transparency to your clients where you see like, oh, yeah, this service is down and it's unavailable today. It's not because the attackers actually shut it down. It's because the company's doing the responsible thing that a small impact in their organization, and they want to make sure they're protecting my data. So they did this as a proactive measure. I could see that as a trust building exercise with your clients.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, cool. So moving on to the phishing report. Pink Man. I think you guys have been seeing this. I've actually been to some talks and had conversations with folks working in help desk. Uh, Phishing is back. Phishing's back, baby. Well, it never really went anywhere, but we're seeing a higher frequency of phishing attacks now. This is pretty big in the news. I think Google actually came out and they were talking about these ongoing phishing attacks trying to compromise Salesforce accounts, which not to be confused with Salesloft Drift. We'll talk about that later. But there's been ongoing phishing attacks targeting Salesforce. Google said, "Hey, we were a victim here as well." So essentially, attackers are calling employees and help desk directly, pretending to be internal IT staff or Salesforce support reps, saying, "Hey, we're locked out," or "We detected suspicious activity. We need to get logged in to check, these things." And so essentially pressuring these help desk individuals into falling victim for these phishing attacks. So, Pink Man, what are you seeing from your casework, and what insights you got here for our phishing report?
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, this one definitely has ticked up more in the last little while. I mean, we've not seen anything in the last few months, at least on our side, but I mean that's highly anecdotal, right? We're a small group, but we're definitely seeing it, and really the ones we've seen more of are help desks being targeted with someone pretending to be an employee. And so, that's an interesting one, right? They call in, "Hey, I broke my phone. I can't log in. Can you add a new multi-factor device for me? Can you do this? Can you reset a password?" That kind of thing. And so, that's the bigger one we've been seeing. I mean, we've still seen a few of the ones where it's kind of the old Microsoft support scam of, right? They call in, "Hey, we see something going on your computer. We need you to install this tool." Generally, something like AnyDesk or Screen Connect or something like that, and then the attacker gains access that way. But we see it a little more on the like I said, the pretending to be an employee calling the help desk front, and it's really effective. I mean, it really is, because generally they have some piece of information that they want to verify. Hopefully, anyway. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but there's some piece of information that they use to verify that you are who you say you are. But a lot of times that's not that difficult of a piece of information to get. Um, even social security numbers, things like that. There's hordes of, public breach data out there, things that people can find um, to use that. And so if you've got sort of one factor essentially um, to authenticate who you are, that's you're back to having an 8 character password kind of thing, right? And so we see that a lot with help desks, and and some things that you wouldn't think about, like I said, social security numbers, things like that, hey, this is my social, this is who I say I am. And they reset the password, add the multi-factor device, and the attacker's in. um, so there's that. But yeah, that's the thing I was going to say as far as like how to protect against this, to be a little more um, vigilant with it, particularly these help desk type attacks, right? I mean, for employees that are non-help desk, a lot of that's going to be education, right? Nobody's ever going to call you, ask you for your password, that kind of thing, getting that stuff out there. But when we're talking help desk, because those just to me are the more impactful ones, make sure you have a couple of pieces of identification. Have some type of system. Maybe it is a social security number, maybe it is an employee ID, something like that. Honestly, the employee ID is sometimes going to be more difficult for someone to acquire, unless it's like a 5 employee company and they're 1 through 5, then it's going to be a little easier. But and be careful what you're putting out there. Watch your pictures of your badges that may have your employee ID on it. Those ones that end up on Facebook, things like that. Have people be more careful with that. And I would say, as a help desk, don't rely on just that sounds like Oscar calling in. I'm pretty sure that's Oscar. I've heard him talk for 20 years. That's Oscar, right? Because I think we know about some things that could be changing that a little bit. So making that a
Yeah.
little easier to do.
Should I play a recording? I can find it here.
I mean, maybe might be a fun one to throw in here. Actually,
Do you
I
have the
think it's
ability? Oh, you can do it on your phone. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, let me find it here.
part of the topic here.
Yeah. What do you think, Eric, while I look for this recording?
Yeah, dude. I mean, or just my opinion on the topic of of AI and stuff, or about you playing the clip?
I think he meant more the fishing, but yeah, yeah.
Of vishing. I mean, yeah, vishing is, I think, um, it's still really effective, right? I mean, I know from a like a pen testing side of things, us doing vishing, it's still a really effective thing. Like I think a lot of years have gone into training people on phishing. People are getting really good at not clicking things. We're getting a lot of really good tools for blocking it from ever getting there in the first place. But social engineering, people aren't more resistant necessarily to social engineering. They're maybe just or resistant to the vector of it now, right? Um, I think that we still see that at the end of the day, people want to help people, especially if they're put in a position to do that. Help desk employees are put in a position to be helping people, right? Front desk employees are, talking about social engineering, in person, right? They're put in a position to try to help people. Um, if you're calling in help desk and you're like, I'm having a terrible day. Nothing's working. I've been trying to log in. I can't get my login working. I like, my phone literally dropped it in the toilet. It's the worst day I've ever had. Everything's just stacking against me. I can't get to my multi-factor. I can't get to the place to reset it. I can't get to information you're probably going to need. Or you're not going to say it that way, right? But you're giving them all the reasons before you even go into it that you might have a
Mhm.
hard time getting some of certain types of information or certain types of access that you might need for this. And so they're already thinking, oh man, how do I help this person? They're having a terrible day. Hey, can you get me this? Right? Well, yeah, maybe that's a weaker way to get in. And maybe that person hasn't been able to go ahead and get that through either other social engineering. I mean, you can easily go social engineer one of the employees and then use the data you gain from that to social engineer the help desk, right? Or through just doing recon and stuff like that. Um, so, yeah, I mean, and an example, I have a buddy of mine, a guy that I've been mentoring now for several years, that is now a pen tester. When I first started talking with him, he was not. And he was telling me the story. He just kind of started getting involved in some social engineering at the company he works at. And this wasn't calling help desk, this was calling individual employees. And he had a lady on the line that he had fully convinced to like do the things he wanted her to do. And he was trying to get her to log into her Microsoft account so that he could go further. And she couldn't remember her password. And like legitimately wanted to help him, felt bad, was sitting there going through the whole thing, but couldn't remember it. And he was like in this awkward position of like, he's supposed to be help desk. He's supposed to be the person that should be able to help her reset that. So then he had to start making up excuses why he couldn't help her, but she wanted to call in then someone else at the help desk and he's trying to talk her out of it. But like the fact was, she really wanted to help, man. Like she was
Right.
just like, oh yeah, like let's do this thing. Um, People are pretty susceptible still to a lot of social engineering.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, just like you said, especially in that position working help desk, you want to help people. You have empathy for people that are maybe having a tough time, having a bad day. And our attackers play on that through their pretexts and their impersonations, right? They understand those human emotions the same way. And so they're able to manipulate these people that are just trying to do their jobs and just do a good thing. So I found that clip. I'm going to play this here and see if you guys maybe. Hi, everyone. I just want to let you know real quick that Eric is awesome. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
Yeah, I am awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
So
saying
that was not
that.
me. That was an AI generated me that Eric created just from listening and recordings. Actually, this, I think you used our
Yeah,
sample
I just
set
went
from
to
the
a
Hackle Box.
previous Hackle Box, recorded like 15 seconds of your voice, and then
Yeah.
had it say what I wanted it to say.
And I think that just the point to drive home, like we know that like phishing's on the rise. It's here. It's not going anywhere. None of the social engineering techniques are going anywhere for a long, long time. Um, if ever. And I think they're going to continue to get better. Like they already know the pretext, they already know how to manipulate people, they know the techniques that work. And then let's add in being able to voice clone for that person that you are impersonating at that time. And then the attacks are going to be much more effective than before. I'm with what Pink said here. I think having those multi layers of authentication is super important and not just relying on a birth date and a social security number, right? I mean, we can get probably anybody's birth date, and let's just be honest, probably the entire American public has had their social security number compromised at this point. So it's obtainable as well. So looking at either those employee identification numbers, setting up secret keys or secret passcodes when you are, onboarding that employee. What other methods would you guys recommend?
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly.
those you could have some
Yeah.
less secure ones, but several of them maybe, or something like that. I mean, look, it's tough because again, you can social engineer both sides of this
Hmm.
conversation, right? Like you could easily call in help desk, hit someone, have them ask you certain questions, not know the answer to them, then call an employee pretending to be the help desk and saying, "Hey, hey, I'm seeing some issues with your computer today, or whatever, right? Or I'm calling about slow internet, something, whatever it might be, right?" And then being like, "But before, I just need to make sure that I contact the right person. Can you give me your employee identification number,
Hmm.
your yada yada yada, it's just to confirm your identity?" They're going to be used to that if they've ever called in help desk because that's what help desk is asking. So you can play both sides of it. Like I do want to suggest, like you are, that people should have some good factors that are less easy to at least find on the internet in some way. But we all should always just be aware that that can still be figured out.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, not anything to add. Yeah, those are multi layers, that kind of thing. But yeah, be aware that it's not perfect.
Yep. Cool. Let's move in and hit some news and guys. And just a reminder, if you guys do have questions, throw them in the chat and we'll get to those. I feel like, well, the last month, this has been going on since August the 8th. There's been a big incident ongoing with the SalesLoft Drift AI agent. AI SalesLoft Drift is like an AI chatbot that allows websites to provide real-time information, human-like interactions with potential customers or clients that may be visiting your web page. SalesLoft acquired the Drift platform about a year and a half ago. They've integrated it and fully integrated into SalesLoft, but then they have a lot of other integrations with Salesforce, Slack, Google Workspace, a lot of other things. So on August 8th, it was determined that there was a significant compromise of the SalesLoft Drift product. Attackers were able to gain access to the product and still OAuth keys and refresh tokens for that were specifically tied to the Salesforce integration. So these tokens essentially allowed attackers to gain access to client environments, whatever you had in your Salesforce or your SalesLoft integration. Right now, it's we're still learning about the impact, but we know there's been a lot of major companies that have been impacted by this: Zscaler, Palo Alto, Proofpoint, Cloudflare, Tenable, and more. The type of data just depends, I think, on the integration, but we know there's a lot of business contact information. There may be product licensing information, support case content, notes about that client that are meant for internal, maybe even internal communications that could have been tied to your integration. Yeah, so this is a big one. I think right now they have restored the connectivity. Salesforce did disconnect and sever all SalesLoft integrations for a period of time. They have restored that, but they're urging everybody that you need to go be resetting those OAuth tokens. Assume every authorization token in your environment has been compromised at this point. So yeah, get on that right away. This is a big one. What do you guys think about it?
I mean, I think it draws attention to one of those, like just the general like integration thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Sales Loft compromise, but if you have Salesforce integrations, right, which many do, I mean, that, yeah, then you can get that data too, right? And it just really, I guess, highlights that to me is that I think a lot of people are really big on integrations in 2025. I mean, in the last few years, right? Like integrating this product with that product. And as we more AI solutions and more whatever, it's all about integration. I mean, Salesforce as a platform was built around like, here's all your data, but we have all these integrations. You have all this ability to bring other things into it, right? And
Hmm.
so we see a lot of that. And I think a lot of people do vendor risk management for in a certain mindset of like, well, hey, what are you doing on your side, whatever. But are they thinking about it from the perspective of like, if I am linking all these different things to different locations, what does that chain of data look like when one of them gets compromised, right? Um, I think it really highlights that, and I think it's a thing that people need to be aware of and be thinking about constantly. Like, I get that integrations make it nice and easy and convenient, but it's one more point of access for your data. So, um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Log4j situation, right? It was essentially a compromise or a vulnerable library, and it was so tied into everything because people were just dropping that in everywhere, and most of the time didn't have documentation that that was even a thing, right? We were still finding, I think, applications in scans and things like that that have Log4j integration that nobody knew about and it's still not been patched. It's similar to that, and I totally agree. I mean, I'm pretty anti-integration everything. I understand it makes things easier, but my tinfoil hat just doesn't allow me to integrate things. I mean, I have two separate phones, right? I mean, that's part of it is I just don't like having things tied together. So I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's stop integrating everything.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. But at the end of the day, I do understand it makes things very, very easy. And, things like Salesforce, there's a lot of good data in there that you want to be able to use and manipulate in different ways. And I can understand it. Um, but still, we really need to be building, these sort of data maps, data flow maps, things like that, so we understand how our data goes, at least as best we can. I think sometimes you may not know because, well, the people you're working with may not have it, but it's time to demand that a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think it's important. Like, this is part of your vendor risk management, right? So, really understanding, scrutinizing all the vendors that you're giving access to your environment, but then understanding what is the access level they have. Like, what's that full integration path? What are the data? What's the data that can and can't be touched by that specific vendor? But there's another, I think, important angle to this particular incident. SalesLoft acquired Drift 18 months ago. And so they forcefully integrated the product. So people could have signed up. Hey, I like the Salesforce product or the SalesLoft product. This is great. It serves our need. And then SalesLoft says, cool, look at this shiny new AI feature we've got because the AI is all the things and everybody wants AI integrated in their product. So they force the integration. So maybe you didn't even sign up wanting that piece of this tool, but it was forced into your environment because of an acquisition of them and trying to make their product more appealing. Um, and I've seen that with other products too, right? So they're acquiring or implementing these AI features or LLM features into the product, and you have no choice or no say so if you want to enable or not enable that product. So I think that's another change that we should be forcing in the industry right now is giving consumers the option to enable features, and it's not just a blanket integration that everybody has to accept that risk because that's what they're doing. They're forcing really an unauthorized risk to your organization by integrating and um, essentially acquiring other technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really solid point, and I think that I would love to see that too. I think there's the other side of it too, where they acquire something, bring it in, and whether you have it enabled in your environment or not, maybe doesn't necessarily matter, right?
Sure.
Like, and so people get access through this new thing to the underlying system that does have your data, right? So it doesn't stop everything, but I think it's something to be considered, and I do think that there should be a change in the industry where people should at least have to let you know about it and make sure that you opt into that thing and nothing's automatically enabled in your environment.
Hmm.
Um, I know we get notifications because of just good relationships with some of the vendors who they'll let us, oh, we're adding this new thing, we're adding whatever. And my first question always is, can I can I opt out? Can I disable?
Yep.
Is there an option to, and they're like, well, do you don't want this nice feature? I'm like, I might, but I don't want it today because it wasn't what I planned, right? Like when I hear everybody today adding in AI to every damn tool we subscribe to or we
Hmm.
own, my first question every single time that they're like trumpeting about like how awesome their new AI integration is going to be is like, can I turn it off? Can I turn it
Yeah.
off right now?
Yeah.
Not because of tinfoil had anything, to be honest with you, just because like I also understand that that's just now one more thing that can potentially have access to data, and I need to vet it. I need to understand how you're using it. I need to understand what data it can see, how it can use that data. Um, and
And how often do they allow you to opt out?
I mean, with the people I'm working with, it's more often than not,
Hmm.
but I think there's probably a decent amount of them out there where that's not an option at all.
Yep.
So yeah, I just happen to be working with the specific tooling I'm working with. It's a little bit more security focused, and people are conscious of that generally. So
Hmm.
yeah, and yeah, Katie in chat said integration is one of their biggest headaches as well. But they have to compromise, and they're also very tinfoil. And yeah, that's the thing is the compromise. I think it would be nice to educate the general public more about how this can affect data, though. We have
Hmm.
a infosec a committee, right, at FR Secure, and we see a lot of these things come through about like integration for this and integration for that. And I feel like the other departments who are asking for these things are constantly just being like, "Hey, if we can get this thing in, it's going to make our job easier. It's going to make our job faster." And they're not thinking about the fact that it's like, yes, it also makes it easier to get access to that data in some through some other channel, through some other vector. So, if they were more educated on that, if everybody was more educated on that and understood that better, maybe it would make it so you had to compromise a little less, or at least have some pretty thoughtful discussion and understanding exactly how these things might be an issue or be another vector for compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's common logic that we know that every solution, every application, every product has vulnerabilities. It's just, have those vulnerabilities been discovered yet? And so for every integration, every new application that you add to your environment, you're just increasing that attack surface and that likelihood that there will be a discovered vulnerability, putting your data at risk. Complexity is the enemy of security. I think there's statistics out there where it's like, for on average, every so many lines of code, there's an expected vulnerability rate of X%, right? And I don't know the numbers, but there is evidence to prove that this is real. And so we continue to primarily focus on ease of use and experience, where that ease of use or that experience could still be attained just with extra steps. But we're in a culture today, in a society today, where we want things to be easy. We want things to be quick. And so that's why even all the companies are trying to supply that product to people, right? They're trying to make their product easier to use, trying to make it easier to integrate through the utilization of these LLMs. But we're starting to see the risk associated with that. And hopefully, this, I mean, is a widely impactful incident, will be something that helps everybody heed a little caution when they are approving those integrations or they're making those changes to their environment.
Yeah. I think it's important to have that balance in UX and security. I have a buddy who works for an organization that does a lot of application development, or their main product is a user interface essentially,
Mhm.
right? At the end of the day, and he was telling me that as IT and security, he basically reports to marketing, which is an interesting situation because, and not like just like he's kind of making a joke or exaggerating it. It's like, no, I have to run everything through marketing first, security wise, and they just shut down some things sometimes, right? Like, nope, that's going to affect the user too much. We don't care if it's secure, and it's like that's what marketing shouldn't be the ones making the call on security implementations. There needs to be some other joint thing going on there, but yeah,
That's
balancing
pretty
it there, I think
scary,
is
man.
important.
Is
It
your is
is.
your bud doing okay?
He doesn't like it. I'll say that.
um, yeah. If you guys have jobs available, anybody listening, Eric's got
Right.
a homie that needs a
Yeah.
new job, so send us a note. Let us know if you're hiring.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, cool. Moving on. We got a Lockbit's back, Pink. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a familiar foe. There's a little bit of benefit there, but it's
Can
also
we just do an audit of our last episodes since we've been doing this? And how many times have we said Lockbit's back? At least three or
Lockbit's
four.
back
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least 3 or 4. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So this is Lockbit 5.0. They've got a new version. They're very excited about it. They've been, talking about it out on the dark web. Um, and yeah, so there's not a lot of details about 5.0 out yet, but we generally know how Lockbit rolls. I mean, it's generally pretty modular and it's pretty effective. It's a self spreader usually as well, which is odd in the ransomware world now. Like we don't see a lot of self spreaders anymore. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out with this. I know they've been kind of on the decline. I mean, hence why we've been saying Lockbit's back over and over again. They got hit with some law enforcement stuff a while back as well. They've been kind of on the decline. We've seen a lot of other groups kind of surge up and be a little more active, whereas it used to be, at least 30, 40, maybe even 50% of the cases we were working were Lockbit, so we got really familiar with them. But yeah, I'm interested to see what comes out of the new version, I guess. I mean, I don't want to see it live. I want to read about it. Hoping hoping I'm not finding out about it through malware analysis, but yeah, it's we'll see how they do this time. I'm not sure. I don't know. Feels like this is they're just taking another swing to try to get back out there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that they announced they're back with Lockbit 5.0, right, on the
Yeah.
sixth anniversary of when the inception of Lockbit began. And just a pattern we always talk about, right? There was the big Operation Kronos in early 2024 where law enforcement's like, we got Lockbit, we took them down, we made arrests, we seized their infrastructure. You don't have to worry about Lockbit anymore. And then we all have a giggle about that because we know it's like playing whack-a-mole. They're going to separate and work with other groups, or they're going to come back and do this and just relaunch the product again in time. To me, I mean, it is concerning because I know we've got like Akira, Klopp, a lot of the other guys on the scene right now, but in the grand scheme of things, like the Lockbit product is good. It works, and it is a ransomware as a service. Just looking, and they've claimed over 2,700 victims throughout a 6 year, operation. Holy crap, that's a lot. So they are effective. They have a good toolkit. People trust their toolkit. So I expect that we will see, an increase in observations of Lockbit activity very, very soon here. And yeah, it does make me a little nervous. We know that their toolkit is effective and people are going to use the toolkit.
This
I think I'm more
episode is
surprised
not
that it's
sponsored by Lockbit, everybody.
yeah, yeah. This is not sponsored by Lightbit at all. Um, I think I'm more surprised that it's the 6th year anniversary. It feels like they've been around for 30
It
years.
does.
Like it just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that one surprised me more than anything, I
I
think.
feel like everything in
So
the
yeah.
IT world feels like it's a million times longer than it is. People are
Yeah.
like, how long have you been in this job? I'm like, I don't know, like 50 years. I'm not sure. I'm not even that old, but I think I've been in pen testing for that long. No, I haven't, but yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this was funny though. This is not sponsored by Lockbit, F those guys, whatever. Uh,
It just sounded like you were really selling the product, man.
I'm
You're
just
like,
saying
to
they're
be honest, it's a
effective.
great product. It's claimed a
It's a good
lot,
product.
like
In the world, if I'm a
But
ransom,
wait, there's more.
if I'm a ransomware actor, right? Well, they're one of the dudes that started the ransomware as a service model, right? They had a full
yeah.
help desk. They had people working around the clock, and so people know and
Yeah.
trust Lockbit in that threat actor group. I'm not endorsing Lockbit. Lockbit sucks. Okay, they cause a lot
He
of
would
damage.
never.
Yeah, but it is
Oscar, do
funny.
we need to have a talk? Are you
They announced, man,
Yeah.
is there some conflict of
faster
interest
encryption,
here?
more modular architecture, increased evasion. Wait, there's more. Be on the lookout. But as always, hey, test your IR plan. Make sure you got some good backups, right? Let's have offline backups. So if you get Lockbit, you can be sure and restore those things. Yeah, sorry. Lockbit sucks. They're back.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I had another topic. I don't know we got time for it because I feel like this one would take a while. We'll save it for next month. I'm sure it's still going to be relevant. Um, Pinky was just wanting to talk about the government. That's all.
Government.
I
Government.
mean,
Yeah, you're old state,
government.
Eric. So I got to call you out, man. You're talking about the stuff that was going on in Washington, but I don't know if you heard that Nevada, like they're,
I heard about Nevada. My dad lives in Nevada, and he called me
yeah,
about my dad. Shout out to him, who he will never watch. Actually, maybe one day he'll watch these. He whenever he sees anything on the news about like a big attack, he calls me. We don't talk too much generally in between that. Love him, he loves me, but we just don't have like that a close conversation when we're calling each other all the time. And but he will call me when there's a big news of a breach, something like that. And obviously, the fact that I lived in Nevada and he does live in Nevada, he called me about that one, and immediately, what do you think about this?
yeah,
Hackers doing this? He's one of the people that the hacker boogeyman, right? Like, and I don't
yeah.
blame him because he hears about all these things and he thinks that like they're able to do all this stuff, and yeah, but yeah, sure enough, man.
They are like pretty hard down. Been down a couple weeks. DMV
Yeah.
still down. DOI still down.
Yep.
It seems like a nasty one. So hopefully they can get a path to recovery, get those services operational. I've even heard like workers' comps delayed. Like there's a lot of impact going on, and so hopefully the folks and the fine citizens of that state are able to regain some normalcy soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. I will search engine it. Also, people should start saying if you search engine something. I was search engineing it. It's too many
Search
syllables,
engine.
but we got to get rid of the Google it just
Yeah,
general. You know what I mean? I'm all for this.
I
All
like
for
that.
this.
We'll keep it rolling. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Pink. Thanks, Eric. As always, a wonderful time seeing you guys again. We'll be back next month. Until then,
Hopefully with
everybody,
less problems. Hopefully.
less
Hopefully.
problems.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to go
Hopefully we'll
much
stream to the
smoother.
right location for anyone listening right now. We apparently didn't stream to the right location. We don't know what we're doing. I'm gonna be very clear, but we're gonna figure it out by next month. Okay. Probably. Maybe.
We're going to
Probably.
do better next month.